You're watching Forget Being Cool.
There's no hope left for these souls.
Welcome to Listening In, the place where music checks in.
Hi, Josh.
Salutations, Dave.
Salutations. This doesn't work. I say hi to people. That's what I do here. I don't know if people know this.
I've known from every intro you've ever done.
Thanks for checking in with me here at Listening In, Josh.
I mean, it's in the slogan. It's kind of my job too.
Yeah. Me and Josh, we check in to Listening In, and we talk about music every week. Josh, you picked an album, as you do, and I think you're going to be excited about what I have to say this time.
Good.
But why don't you tell me all about it?
Well, let me just get it queued up here. So, how else to start an episode about the only band ever than with this? And I hope that people's speakers can pick this up. Nothing says post-hardcore like a good old-fashioned guitar riff like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the only band ever today on Listening In. Take it, George. 2006 to me is loving this right now.
So now that we've gotten shut off of YouTube for copyright,
copyright strikes. On this episode of Listening In, we're talking about, as I said, the only band ever, St. Catherine's own Alexisonfire. These guys, they started out, if I said they're from St. Catherine's, they are extremely pivotal to a lot of people getting into post-hardcore, and especially with acts like Billy Talent and Cancer Bats, and I'd say some other American ones, like some of them, one I suppose you could lump Rise Against in there because they're more on the punk side.
Right.
Definitely responsible for getting a lot of people interested in the heavier side of music. And Crisis itself is, I would argue, the band's international breakthrough because their previous album, Watch Out, from 2004, that really helped put them more on the map in Canada. But outside of Canada, it still took them a while to really get that exposure. And for me, I'd say this is my favorite album just above Watch Out. And for good reason, because my first exposure to this album was with the track This Could Be Anywhere in the World, which of course is a single, but it's probably one of my favorite tracks there just because I've heard it so many times. It's extremely melodic. The thing you have to know about this band, and especially on this album, is they are not afraid to show you that they have three very different and very versatile singers. You've got George Pettit, of course, on the screens, as you just heard, but let's not forget that Dallas Green was a fantastic singer and songwriter, and still is in his own right, between Alexisonfire and at that time he had just started doing City in Color as a side project, and that's where he really let his soulful voice shine, and you definitely hear that on this album, especially on a track like This Could Be Anywhere in the World. You know, in the verse, the streets are in distress, you can really feel that emotion. That's why every time I sing that chorus of the city is haunted by ghosts, and then you have the other guitarist Wade McNeil chime in with that ghosts. Like the fact that those voices can mesh together so well, combined with the guitars. There isn't a lot of solos, but the riffs on here are really good. And then you have probably the best lineup change for this band. Jordan Hastings joined on drums for this album, and he's got a groove to how he plays the drums, but he can really throw in some good fills on here, like especially this song, as well as We Are the Sound, which is another favorite just because
I love that. Josh, I'm gonna stop you right there.
No, I know. I don't want to ramble on forever.
You're so excited, and I'm gonna tell you every time you're like, you know what else is a really good favorite of mine? I'm like, yeah, that one's my favorite too. This album, I'll tell you right now. Let me tell you guys something. This is maybe my favorite album we've done so far on this show. Right? That's new to that feels new to me. Although you said I've heard this band, you're right. I've heard this band. I couldn't place it, and it was back in my early 2007, 8 kind of like I'm rebelling because I'm a freshman in high school kind of
The dark thing about this album, though, and you can see it from the album art, and also if you look at the lyrics for the title track, It is. It isn't very much. They took some stuff from. There was a blizzard in the Great Lakes region in 1977 that was in Niagara Falls, Western New York, and I think probably more towards St. Catharines and Hamilton in Ontario. And like it was bad. Like you guys thought the ice storm in 2013 was bad, or the ice storm in 1998 was bad. That's along the lines of what we're talking about here. So yeah, they used a lot of source pictures for that. And the title track is that whole "This Town is Going Under." That song is basically talking about this blizzard's gonna kill everybody because it's so there's so much snow. Like this thing caused millions in damage and led to the deaths of at least 25 people. But it's like that refrain of 1977, 1977, and then in the second verse when it's like one, there's nothing that you can do. The sky is gonna crush you. The way it hammers itself in, it's almost like a mantra of, just remember that day. This is going to be the last thing you remember. And it's so desolate. I'd also recommend if you want to hear an as good or even superior version of Crisis on YouTube, look up the BBC Radio Sessions version of Crisis, because the way it opens with the guitar strumming a little bit, like the chorus, and you have Dallas singing, it does really well. And let's not forget the bass work on here from one Chris Steele. You may not always hear it at times, but it's there.
It's there. Love this. My favorite thing about this right now is how excited you are about this album. I couldn't name a track on here that I disliked, right? Like there's not a single song on here that I could be like, it's okay. Like, no. All of it is stellar. There are tracks that I like more than others. I've listened to this album a couple times. I'll tell you, every time I listened to it, I was never sick of it. I never got to a point like, I can't believe I'm listening to this album again. This music flows with me. It takes me to a different time in my life. I'll admit that. Like, it is definitely not David in 2019 kind of flow here, but it is definitely something that I enjoy listening to.
It's a very inclusive album. I mean, again, you got songs like "We Are the Sound," "We Are the End." I mean, granted, track list wise, it's like, well, which one are you, the sound or the end? But at least they didn't have the last track be "We Are the End." It's instead another single, "Rough Hands," which I think is about it's about a relationship that's kind of on the rocks,
having some issues.
Yeah, that your hands will always be rough. There's always going to be trouble associated with that. And I got to go back to "We Are the Sound" because you have that riff. When they do this live, there's always some good crowd participation with the bridge, like da 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 da. We are the sound. We are the sound.
I particularly like "You Burn First."
I was going to talk about "You Burn First" because at first I thought it was Wade singing, but it is actually the frontman of the band Planes Mistaken for Stars.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Which is kind of interesting because I should get more in. I think I've heard of that band. Yeah, Garrett O'Donnell is the frontman for that. So it's a little bit of a softer, more acoustic turn on here.
Oh,
which if you've heard any of their acoustic songs that Alexisonfire have done on the Death Letter EP from 2012, they can definitely pull it off.
If there's a track on here that goes second place for me, other than first place being "This Could Be Anywhere in the World," right?
Yeah, that bridge, the way the city, and then you hear the little like acoustic part, and then the little right cymbal thing, and then it kicks back in, and then the last "Walk With Us." That little space right before it kicks into the chorus again.
My second favorite track on the album is probably "Boiled Frogs."
Yeah, "Boiled Frogs," it's grown on me a lot since it came out. It's basically it's inspired by, there was a situation where George Pettit, his dad, he was working for someone that tried to cheat him out of a pension at his job. And it's based on the whole theory that if a frog's placed in a pot of water and then the temperature slowly goes up, they won't notice they're being cooked alive. And that whole comparison, it's like, that's the idea. If a frog's placed in a boiling pot of water, they'll jump right out because they can tell. Ugh. But that's the thing. If someone's put in a situation where they can't tell that things are going wrong, then it's going to be too late by the time they do anything about it.
Anyway.
One song I do have to address is "Keep It on Wax," which I don't know. It's long been thought and speculated that the song is directed towards the former drummer Jesse Inglovich because I guess at the time there was still some animosity between them because at the time he left because because there was a statement that he and the band had slowly grown apart. He wanted to spend more time with his family and his fiance. And at that time, when you're a band that's building momentum and you're about to break internationally, you're definitely going to want to have people that are willing to stick together and see that commitment through. And sometimes you have to lose some people along the way. But I'm sure they've made up by now. But it's basically trying to appeal to a more peaceful sort of conflict resolution. This idea of keeping something on wax instead of just through music, Wax, Vinyl Records.
It's a good one, too. Josh, thank you. I mean this. Thank you for picking this album. Thank you for giving me an entire new album to add to my library.
I know I probably didn't go super into detail with this, but I think definitely Alexisonfire, especially in light of recent news, it's a good time to get into their discography because I guarantee you're going to find a lot of meaningful songs in here, and there's a lot of neat instrumentation that I definitely think if you're looking for something that's post-hardcore, but it's got some hardcore punk components in there as well, you can't go wrong with this album.
When I listen to this, I'm taken back to that time, and I would just let Spotify, after the album ended, I would just let Spotify just continue going, and it kept playing their music. Like, it kept playing a bunch of their music that I've never heard, and never did I get to a point where I need to turn this off. And that's
the crazy thing. It's like even Spotify knows they're the only band ever.
It's a weird feeling thinking, God, every track I listen to, I like. You can set Pandora to any, radio station, and you're going to get a couple like, all right, I'm going to hit that skip button. And most likely you're going to run out of skips. It's just the reality.
This is a great album that's designed for, like, the opening drum fill on mailbox are like, bah, 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 bah. Like, if you could just take that part and copy paste it and make like a little, that just sounds like something I would love to hear just go on a little further. I would also recommend if you guys can find the two, I don't know if they were B-sides or bonus tracks, My God is a Reasonable Man and Thrones. I don't know if they necessarily fit in the album context, but if you can find them, definitely check those out as well, because I think they fit in line with what the album is trying to say.
Thank you for checking in with us. I'm Dave Moore. That's Josh Weinberg. Of course, for all our links, including our upcoming albums, if you guys want to see what we're listening to next, if you guys want to listen along with us, go to forgetbeingcool.com, go to the listening in page, or forgetbeingcool.com/LIP. You can join our Facebook group. You can find the show on iTunes. You can listen to it on Google Play Music. Hopefully someday we'll be on Spotify. By the time you're listening to this, we might be on Spotify. Who knows? Josh, you got any last words to tell them before we check out?
Well, thank you guys for listening, and remember, there's no hope left for these souls.
Hit that subscribe button. Like, comment, and subscribe.
For more great discussions, hit that subscribe button or visit forgetbeingcool.com.